as more and more people join. Excellent. Okay. So, welcome everybody. My name is Sophie Chester-Glynn and I am director at Co-Produce Care. And today we are doing slightly different from what we normally do, is a live stream. We're doing a webinar at the moment, and we're going to look at outstanding. So just to give everybody a little bit of context, a few months ago, at the end of last year, I decided to have a look at what CQC are rating as outstanding, go through the reports and summarize some of the things that key themes that were coming up. So I started to do that and I thought I'd shared it on some of the groups that some of you might be part of, and also shared it on what we have now as a member site at Co-Produce Care on our website. And I thought it would be a really good idea actually to see, firstly, just to present this to people. So it's in people's inboxes. We're going to share the slides as well on our members area, and then hopefully have some discussion. Some of you may think you may actually be doing some of the stuff that they're rating as outstanding at the moment, and some people might just want to have a general discussion about it. So I will ask you to put in the chat whether you want to have discussions in between or whether you want to have just basically do this. I can go all the way through all my slides, all my 20-something slides, and then we can have a chat afterwards. So a little. So Co-Produce Care, we started back in 2019. Some of you will know us already. And a main aim of what we wanted to do is to call it democratize the care discussion, which is really to get more people to talk about and understand care, get more people who work in care to have a better voice and say in how policies and laws are being made around social care, which we all have to work towards. So we started doing that. We have some of our work includes doing submissions to policymakers. If there's a consultation that's coming out, then we respond to that and we try to get a group of us to go and respond and give feedback. And then obviously we've been doing a lot on YouTube over the pandemic, and we have a host of videos. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you can see there we've had over quite a few views on our interview with CQC, Chief Inspector of Adult Social Care there. Obviously, we've got this one and a host of other interviews which people might find informative. So do be sure to check that out. And also you can see with the Health Foundation, there was we were asked to undertake a project where we did some research around AI and how that can be used in care. So do be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and that's some information on us. Okay, so just a little bit of a note. Like I said, a lot of this information I'm going to share, it's really pre-seed, it's really scaled down to a few key points, but my summaries that I've done are a few pages long for each month. I did 2 months in November, December, so it's quite long. And then for September, October, I just did 1 month of summarizing the outstanding reports. They're all on our member site. So if you're a member of our member site, then you'll be able to access them, download them, do what you want. But that's the best way to get that. And then if you want to get some more information, obviously CQC restatements are coming up, and I've done a little bit of a spreadsheet on how people may want or may not want to start thinking how they evidence what they're doing to meet the way restatements and the new inspection framework, and that's all in our member site, so go check it out. And also just before I get into it, and I will do in a minute, don't worry. The next session we're going to do is in March, and that will be a live stream and not so interactive like this one. And it just, I mean, I presume everyone has heard about the post office scandal, and it just clocked to me how with care being really pushed to go digital, which I'm all for, absolutely wonderful. How do we prevent something like that happening within digital social care? Not to say that it could do. You'd hope that you have good actors within all social care organizations, but I think it's just some kind of reflective practice, which I thought it might be useful to get some experts together and to consider what what safeguards are there already, and maybe where we as social care people who work in social care or lead organizations or run teams, where we need to be thinking how we keep ourselves and people who work in the services safe from any issues with digital care. So I've got Daniel Casson, Peter Skinner, Michelle Corrigan and Katie Thorne and myself are going to be talking. So please do join us for that. And we'll put some information, a link in the chat for anyone who's in the Zoom about that. So please join us. So a little bit of housekeeping. I'm going to record this, if I can find the record button. But also we're streaming on YouTube, so that YouTube can just see me and the slide. But if you want to have any discussion, do put in the chat actually if you prefer that we had discussion in between the slides, and I can pause, or if I just run through the slides, then we can have discussion afterwards. I'm quite easy either way, but just to let you know, it's being streamed. But the chat doesn't appear on the stream, so that's fine. So you can put whatever thoughts you have in the chat. Mute if you're not talking. I've got one of my team members helping me mute anyone anyway. And it's up to you if you want your camera on and off. It's fine at the moment. Maybe in the discussion period, people might want to have the camera on. That's usually quite a nice touch. But at this point in time, that's not appearing in the stream, just me. So you can keep it on for now. And then just I'm going to go through the findings of the summary of what came up in the reports of outstanding care homes, care organisations, and then hopefully we'll have a discussion. So that's the basic state of play. So recap timescales that this covers. It's just September, October, November, December. So it's not like I'm doing a huge review of the last year. So it's just this tiny period. And in terms of just a bit of a reminder of the close, this is all on CQC's website that you can find, what they're looking at in terms of safety, safeguarding, managing risks, meds management, infection control, and some other things there you can see on the screen. In terms of effective assessing needs, staff skills and knowledge, nutrition, hydration, how staff, teams and services work together, supporting people to live healthier lives, accessible premises and consent to care and treatment. Caring, it's basically kindness, respect and compassion, involving people in decisions about their care, privacy and dignity. Responsive, they're looking at person-centered care, concerns and complaints, end of life, and well-led. They say that the focus on the website, as this all comes from the website, is on vision, strategy, governance and management, engagement and involvement, learning, improvement and innovation, and working in partnership. And that's boldly true to what came up actually in the reports that I looked at, so not too far off. So in terms of the general statistics of what was coming up on the outstanding reports that I was looking at, the majority of them were from care homes. So it was the majority were care homes that were being rated as outstanding, a few home care agencies, domiciliary care. I couldn't see any supported living, but mainly care homes. There were no outstanding ratings for safety. So safe, one of the Chloe's, there wasn't, none of the organizations were rated as safe. Obviously, to be outstanding, you need to have two or more of your of the Chloe's need to be rated as outstanding for your service. So it's not a requirement to have outstanding in the safe category, but I just thought that might be something that people would find interesting. So they would generally get good, not outstanding. And the ones that were being rated as outstanding, the Chloe's key lines of inquiry, were well led and responsive, but the most comprehensive parts of the reports were always in the well led section. So I hear some people say that you can't get outstanding unless you are outstanding and well led. And I honestly did used to believe that, but I don't think there is anything. I think it helps. I think maybe there are quite a few that are outstanding, but it doesn't seem to be an absolute steadfast requirement. And I thought this one was quite interesting, this Cooper's Croft Care Home. So when I looked at it, like I said, you need two outstanding elements of the Chloe's to be outstanding. So they did have the two, but they were at different years. So they were obviously they're inspected in 2018 and they just had the one outstanding for responsive and the rest were good. And then they were re-inspected and just the well led was outstanding. It was just that was the only bit that was inspected and added as outstanding, which then culminated in the overall service being outstanding. I'm used to inspections happening at one time and all of the Chloe's being inspected at one time and the outstanding rating being given at that time on the elements of the Chloe's, if that makes any sense, rather than having one outstanding, then going back and just have one other element added to it, and then the whole service becomes outstanding. I'd not seen that before. I just thought it was really interesting. I hope I've explained it properly. If I haven't, put it in the chat and I can try and explain it a bit better. I thought that was unusual, but it's an outlier. I haven't, I mean, I've only been doing this a few months, obviously, so, but I hadn't seen that before. I hadn't noticed. I've not heard of that before either, but maybe other people have. So do feel free to put that in the chat. So I'm just going to get straight into it. Effective, starting off with effective, no particular reason. But what I've done here on this slide, and the rest of the slides are the same format. I've got focus on the left-hand side and I've got examples on the right-hand side. And the focus areas are in the reports. They all had subtitles with these with what's in the focus area column. So they'd have a subtitle of staff support, induction training skills and experience, and then they'd have commentary on that area. And then they'd have within the effective, they'd have another sub title of staff working with other agencies to provide consistent, effective, timely care. And they'd have other examples, all the evidence within under that subtitle. So I thought that was quite interesting to pull out because I hadn't seen that on CQC's website specifically, but it is in there in the report. So this is the type of things that they are reporting under. Obviously, it could change when the new regime comes in. It will do, but at the moment, this is what it is. There weren't that many examples. They weren't that comprehensive within effective. It was, as you can see, there's a lot of blanks. There's not much detail in this. When I get to well led, there's tons of detail, a lot of text. I'm sorry, but we will share the slides. So just on the first one, the kind of things that were being alluded to, as you know, they aren't very detailed, these reports, but it sometimes might spur on some thoughts within what you can do, what you are doing within your organizations that you want to bring out when you have an inspection. So you've got continually develop their skills, specific training, such as awareness of attachment theory, and accredited member of the National Open College Network. So I think it's not to say everybody needs to do that, but the main takeaway from this part is that what they were doing, so the care that they were delivering, was obviously to keep people safe and to keep people well cared for, but it was attached to a particular theory of development or a theory of giving care. So it wasn't just, and I shouldn't say just, but it included something that was beyond fulfilling what we needed to do within a care plan. It had the overall service had almost like a philosophy of care. One of the things that they liked was, or they adhered to, was attachment theory. They were aware of it, they were being trained on it, and there was obviously evidence that the practice alluded to it. And I didn't put this slide in, but I thought about putting it in this morning. What I tend to see is that there's a golden thread within each thing. So, for example, you might be doing positive behavior support training within an organization, but what they were looking for is that, yes, people had the PBS training certificates, but staff could also talk to the training when when the inspector was talking to them, and the inspector was also able to witness staff carrying out that training. I mean, this was difficult, but they were, when they were doing their observations, they could see that it was embedded within the service. And then the golden thread also went through to the comments of feedback from staff, but also feedback from families and people being supported. Not always people being supported, but definitely there was quite a lot of focus on getting feedback from family members, and the outstanding reports were very big on that. The paragraph sometimes of what people had said to the inspector about the service. So they almost had, it's triangulated it, I think is the term. You might claim as a provider you do something, but then your evidence needs to be shown throughout different levels of the organization. So, this isn't as a checklist, it's just to explain that some of the things that were coming up. And I think that would be the golden thread they'd be looking for, is that training is implemented, people are talking about it, people are doing it, and also the impact is being felt by family, friends, and obviously the people who are being supported. So yeah, you've probably seen the other things that are on there are annual health checks. I'm just going down to the next level. Adapting service design, decoration to meet people's needs. I couldn't find any examples really under that were particularly inspirational, so I didn't add any. I mean, they basically said in that people chose the design a little bit of their living space. I didn't think that would inspire anyone particularly. It seems a bit basic, but that is still one of the focuses that they look at. And then just the penultimate focus area, supporting people to eat and drink enough to maintain a balanced diet, supporting people to live healthier lives, access healthcare services support. For some reason under this one, the examples that they gave were people's understanding of consent and the Mental Capacity Act. So that comes through quite a lot. And in a few of the reports, staff were able to evidence their understanding of consent and mental capacity, and the inspector was observing staff providing care and the way in which they sought people's consent for whatever they were doing with the client at the time. So I think I've got that on the examples next. So we've mentioned some of these already. It's just a bit more on a bit more information, and obviously some more on the autism accreditation at the bottom there. So like I said, there wasn't huge amounts there. The only thing that was quite interesting was their training was accredited by a university. Yeah, okay, I'm going to move on to caring. So the focus and examples again. So like I said, these focus areas are consistently the same in all of the outstanding reports. So this is what they are looking at reporting on when they are writing the report. So ensuring people are well treated and supported, respected, respecting equality and diversity. And some of the examples I pulled out. So some of you might be aware of the policy that CQC has on right care, right support, and right culture. So they pulled that out from one of the reports. They'd seen the service demonstrating that. Person-centered care was a real focus. There weren't too many detailed examples of this, but it's just, that's pretty much what we know already. Then the second focus, supporting people to express their views and be involved in making decisions about their care. So we've got the goals, and aspirations, partnerships, and external professionals. So my time, my voice sessions each week. That was something that one of the care homes had started within their services. So I think it's a bit like you would say traditionally a meeting with people who use services, a weekly meeting. So activities of their choice. Then the last focus area that I identified, I don't think there's another slide on this, respecting and promoting people's privacy, dignity, and independence. So lots of the activities, I think, are quite a big theme on this, seeing people go out, do things, go on holiday, those activities are linked with something in their care plan, something in their wishes, something that they've stated that they want to do. So you've got the golden thread of that. And then you'll have an example of a family member or the person themselves saying, this activity or this holiday or whatever it is that they did meant a lot to me and changed my life. Any of those positive feedback you can get from people. So it's not just to show in the care plan that that's something that's been done, or the daily notes. It's that golden thread that runs out throughout. So some examples there. I'm just talking about impact. So it's people actually explaining to CQC how this impacted their lives. And there's a quote there: "Without question, the staff here have helped me turn my life around. If I wasn't here, my life would be a mess again and things would be out of control." And then this one in blue is from a home care service. So they were sending them flowers on their birthday. So just the extra touches. But I think more than what was done, I think it's the fact that they were able to hear that that was done from the person themselves. So that feedback is really a recurrent theme. And this one here as well about supporting people with their religious and cultural needs. So one person's relatives told us at the end, so this is end of life, before the ambulance took a family member, they told him that he was extremely sick. The sisters went and got a priest so the family member could have their last rites. They got the priest up into the ambulance. I think they mean to say so they were able to administer them. That was a huge thing for us, the family. So again, it's that if you're saying you're doing something, you also need to show it, evidence it, and then there needs to be commentary from a third party. And I think going forward, meeting cultural needs is going to be quite a big theme. Other example around gender identity, I thought was quite interesting. So the registered manager had sought meetings for a person to attend and additional training for staff. Other medical professionals were included, and sessions such as voice therapy had been sought for the person to fully explore and understand their identity. Voice therapy helps people adapt their voices to achieve communication patterns that match their gender identity. So it's that, I mean, that's a really person-centered way of supporting somebody. I think also, again, that will be a big theme to evidence how you're doing that and who you're involving and your understanding. If you don't have any understanding, at least a basic understanding, and this just making that almost like a mandatory training for people. Not that specific example, but it's the sort of EDI space. People this the last example here, again, about activities and choice and evidencing that. I talked about bigger, longer trips. But this one I don't think has an example of a quote from the person, but a lot of them do. So again, about that golden thread. Okay, so moving on to responsive. Again, there wasn't too much in responsive. I think I'm right in saying that. Yeah. So one of the two focuses that were in the recent reports, and there may be more, or foci, then, but they weren't identified in the reports that I've looked at so far. So the two so we've got the focus of personal care and end of life support, but within those, they were quite extensive. So there was a lot on personalized care, and there was a lot on end of life support as well. So if you want the detail of that, then like I said, the full document is in our members area. So just pulled out a few here. Snack Squad, I think this was for older people service. And the organization was recognized by the Alzheimer's Society as a dementia-friendly community. And they also had links to the community. So links to the community were really, really important here. And then some conversation boards and my life story. And thought the example of the robotic cat was quite interesting. I think I've got the example over the page. So I think it was an example of them trying to help people who they thought that would be useful for. I think people have used, dolls before, interactive dolls before. So it's that sort of ethos. But with these, the personalized care and the community, especially, I thought was quite interesting. It was a case of if somebody had a specific need within their care plan, finding out who in the community could support them with that need, linking that person, and then showing evidence of the impact of that collaboration and how that had changed that person's outcomes, that changed their life. Maybe you've connected with organizations that support with fall preventions, and then again having a quote from somebody, whether it's a professional who's been involved in that community outreach or support, having a way that they can comment to the inspector and let them know how you've been working as an organization, what the impact is, what you've been doing. So again, it's not, I think it'd be quite difficult just to say that you're doing it. There's got to be evidence on different levels. That's what it said. That's what it seems to show in the reports. An example of responsive, people's care and support was exceptionally personalised. That doesn't really tell you much. It was planned to meet their needs and wishes. Staff involved people and their families in planning their care, which meant they felt consulted, empowered, listened to, and valued. One relative said, "What a fabulous care home. I've never met a more friendly and helpful set of staff. They are a breath of fresh air." Another responsive example. So when the registered manager noticed that some people living with dementia were losing weight with no obvious explanation, they developed a snack squad. So that's what I was referring to in the previous slide. And this was to improve people's food intake. Now, the snack squad consisted of well-being and housekeeping staff who prioritised giving people at risk of weight loss high-calorie treats. The squad, I'm not going to say the whole thing again because I can't, spend dedicated time twice a day supporting and encouraging people at risk of malnutrition due to weight loss to eat outside of meal times. The impact of this, so impact again, was people were now a healthy weight. Those impacted by this initiative engaged in more activities such as visits to the pub and enjoyed their food much more than previously due to enjoying better health overall. So what I took from this, and you might have taken something different, put it in the chat, was that there was an issue, there was a solution that involved the team, and the solution provided a positive impact for people, which changed their lives. So it's like it's a circle. I feel like the circle is closed off when you can evidence all of that. So sometimes I might think of just saying, well, I do a snack squad, and then assume that the CQC inspector will take from it what I'm thinking or what I see, but you really have to explain how it has impacted the service and the people who use the service in every way, and then the outcomes. So you really, from the start of doing what you're doing, you'll have, if I suppose, I presume this service would have been taking people's weight. So you'd have evidence of the weight change. They'd also be there'll be evidence of what was given to and to whom. And then there'll be evidence of a comparative analysis, if you like, of the activities people were doing before they started this snack squad and the activities that they were taking part in after they'd done this initiative. So even though it looks like a very simple example, I think there's work to be done to make sure that you've got the whole evidence of everything that you're doing, whether it's in a folder, whether it's, I mean, I don't know how else you do it actually. It would just be in a folder, probably an online folder where you've actually maybe done a report or you've evidenced all of it, just to make sure you don't forget what you've done. If it's scattered all over the place, then sometimes it's really difficult to evidence it in those short moments when you've got to talk to an inspector. So yeah, it might seem like a pretty basic idea, but it's the way you evidence it and you gather your evidence at the right time. Another example, and these are the quotes. So one relative said, "I absolutely love visiting their family member. I'm always welcomed with a friendly smile and greeted by all of the staff. Even though I'm not a resident myself, it feels like a home from home to me. So it's very much, I always liken it to when you go anywhere, if you go to a hotel or if you're visiting a friend, as soon as you open the door, it's the first thing, it's the smile or the frown. If you get a frown, you instantly get a feel of the place. So it's really tricky, but those first impressions are really, really important. It's the smell, it's the cleanliness, it's how everybody's looking, presenting themselves, and obviously the feedback that everyone's giving. So that did come through on quite a lot of the quotes. I just picked out that one. Staff found ways to ensure they had choice and control over decisions, such as the use of flash picture cards and Braille. A relative told CQC, the level of care is terrific. I take a copy of the carers support plan, so I have something to talk about when I ring my relative. And then it also mentioned about staff training and knowledge of consent. So consent is a really important thing that came out in responsive. So they so in the last sentence here, it says, during our inspection, we saw staff involving people in day-to-day decisions in ways that encourage their involvement and independence. So they're not just being told that's what they do. They will be looking for staff to demonstrate that they are involving people, and it's to do with independence, and it's encouraging people, and that it's in line with consent. So they'll be looking for all of that within the daily activities of what staff are doing with people, or how they are involving people, how they're looking after people, how they're enabling people to live their lives. So well led, no surprises is the most comprehensive, like I said at the beginning part. So there's a lot in it. Sorry, it's a big slide. I did think I should put it into 2 slides, and then I decided just to squeeze it all onto one. But I do have a lot of examples as well. Just before I go through each one, I'll just say that one of the things that comes through is the governance part and evidencing that you are tracking, monitoring, and have an oversight of your service. And and it's not just to gather data, but you're reacting to the data that you have, and also a lot on how you're looking after your staff. So the first focus is promoting a positive culture that is person-centered, open, inclusive, and empowering, which achieves good outcomes for people. So continuously developing the service. So it's evidence that we were here last year, now we're here this year. So there's evidence that you've made changes, whether you have a improvement plan or whatever it is. Professionals were extremely complimentary. So again, it's having that triangulated evidence of, yeah, they say they're good, but also professionals who have nothing to do with the service really, apart from going in and supporting people now and again, they also say that they are really good, and then they can evidence it as well. So it's all got to come together. And they also celebrating staff achievement. Champions, a lot of people have champions, but few of people reports commented that there were champions in a lot of areas. So not just I have one champion for equality, we have champion for person-centered care, for wound care, and a lot of different champions in different areas. Lots of well-being events and maintaining independence. The second focus, how the provider understands and acts on the duty of candor, that was big as well, which is their legal responsibility to be open and honest with people when something goes wrong. So accidents and incidents from the angle of promoting empathy and learning from the other person's point of view. So what came out was that accidents and incidents and critical reflective practice wasn't used to instill punitive measures against staff, where that wasn't particularly necessary, but it was used to learn from and to have empathy with what happened, the situation that was people were under, and to see things from other people's point of view. So it's a bit more of a holistic response rather than what happened, who needs to be disciplined, and moving on. So there's a lot more attention to that. And also they were interested in people who in organizations had shown that they'd followed NICE guidance as well. And there's a lot of guidance on NICE's website. So it's definitely good to have a look and seeing which guidance will be useful to either reference in your policies or to make self aware of, or even to show that you've looked at the guidance in order to implement changes in your service. So I'm down now to the focus number 3, which is managers and staff being clear about their roles and understanding quality performance, risks and regulatory requirements, and continuous learning and improving care. So it's the auditing was really robust. Like I said at the beginning, an overview of external pet partners as well, people's rights to relationships, medicines management, and connecting with psychologists. That was an example that came through, connecting with professionals in order to improve your service. So real tangible examples of how you'd, I think this example was where people had psychological issues and how they connected with them to make changes with the service, almost like a consultancy. And yeah, really effective governance. I have got some examples coming up shortly. Then the penultimate one here, engaging and involving people using the service, the public and staff are fully considering their equality characteristics, working in partnership with others. So if you've got PBS plans, they're comprehensive, they're detailed, and they've got clear guidance. There's links with local higher educational settings. So some people might be in areas where you've got universities, you've got colleges, connecting with them and seeing how they can support your service, or connecting with any research that they've done that can help, or training that came out as well. If you've got an employee of the employer award, obviously that's a major support. It's not necessary. Not everybody had awards, but it was more to show that you were using your external community to support what you were doing. You were actively going out to whether it's colleges, universities, or other education facilities to try and see how they can help you deliver a better service, basically. And then a lot of them said, how do you said we did document? So that, I mean, that's something that you could do after you've done a quality assurance. Probably most people are doing that. You do a quality assurance questionnaire with people you support, people, staff. You do a you said we did document that everybody knows about, and then that's part of the evidence. So they were I feel like that's been a theme within CQC reports for a while anyway. And then working in partnership with others. So Blankets with Borders. So I think that's an example I use in a minute. And sustaining outstanding practice through research and consultation. So research did come up quite a lot in the reports that I looked at. And it was in different ways. There was a focus on care organizations participating in research. So you might get an ask from a university to help to consult on supporting some research in some way, and they look quite highly on that, and also using any research locally that's been done to change your service in any way. So it might be just connecting with your local establishments and seeing what's going on, and just sending out an email saying we're here, and can you provide any supports? I mean, there might be students that need some credits for some training or workshops, and they're not going to charge for doing anything, but it's part of their course. So that would be something you'd want to highlight to CQC if you're doing anything like that. So well-led examples. So this is a little bit about, I suppose, working with the local authority to test good practice. So the home had recently been selected by the local authority to deliver end-of-life care in the borough, and were awarded the syringe driver lead home pilot as a result of this. A health professional commented, they are going to train other nursing homes in the area on the use of the BD bodyguard syringe driver. Wincourt have been instrumental in the development of this project that will be going live early in 2024. So I suppose it's the way that care home contributed to improvements within that local authority system or ICS system, I mean, and that's a good example, but I'm sure there's a lot of homes doing something similar and you're just not even thinking about that being an outstanding element. But that's definitely something that you'd want to stress in your PIR or discussions with CQC. Another example, people and staff were at the heart of the running and development of the service. One person told us, I have my own regular staff team that I was able to choose with the support by the manager. That doesn't sound right, but that's I just lifted that from the report. Well-led examples, not more. So there were a number of initiatives aimed at promoting good mental health and well-being, such as Wellbeing Wednesdays. So this is taken from one of the reports that gave staff the opportunity to attend talks and discussions about various topics such as mindfulness. Staff spoke very positively about these sessions. They also confirmed these sessions were open to the people living at the service, who also enjoyed attending. The provider had also trained a number of staff to be mental health first aiders. Mental health first aiders has come up in a few. But also the well-being is really, really big. And I think I've got another example here. So this is of another home. Well-being events ranged from a staff member providing Reiki, meditation sessions, fresh fruit being provided in the flu season to boost immunity, and in Carers Week, the registered manager making fresh pasties for the staff team. A staff member told us, we support staff experiencing the menopause. An example included a hairdresser providing hair up styles to keep hair out of the way. They told us it helps the symptoms and makes them feel better. So I couldn't figure out whether they did that for staff or whether they did that for clients. I think that means they're doing those for clients. But menopause is a really good way. If you're doing anything to support the menopause for staff or for people you support, then that's definitely something to bring out. It's a really good way of looking at well-being. And I think with well-being, it's really difficult because sometimes you think about well-being and it just seems like such a big area. And like, well, what does that even mean? And where can I even start with it? But it's take it from that example, it's seeing or understanding there's a specific need and addressing that need with well-being support. So the fresh fruit is connected to flu and boosting immunity. It's like the so what factor for everything that you're doing. You're doing something, but there's a reason behind it. And the reason behind it is connected with supporting people's well-being, whether it's staff, whether it's people who are being supported. Another example, a service focused on sustaining outstanding practice through research and consultation. So we're back to research again, with professionals and organizations that reflect best practice and innovation. Examples include referencing articles from the Dementia Care Journal on garden design, consultation, so I can't speak today, consultation with Marie Curie on end of life care, and charities such as the RNIB for support with specialist care issues. So it's finding out people in your local area who can support you, and anything that you do, because you'll be doing loads of things every minute of every day. If you can either, I mean, you might look in a journal and see something that's really good that you then go and do in your service, or it might be that you're doing something really good in your service and then you find some kind of research which backs that up. And it gives you and your staff team confidence, and it also helps the evidence that you are doing something that's good practice and has been researched as such. But also, there was something else I was going to say in regards to that. It's gone. But it is really about finding where there is, oh yes, it's working with other people. So another way that you could work with local, again, you could connect with local universities and find out what they're doing. Come ask some students or even colleges to come in and support you with design of the service, of design of, if you're doing redecorations, if you're the garden designer they've got in that example. And I think that's going to be a consistent theme as well that shows good practice. and performance data has been analysed. I think I said that quite a lot in well-led. There's lots on well-led, but it's the way that your leaders, and that might be you, that might be someone above you, are looking at the data, that because we're collecting a hell of a lot of data now in social care. It's incredible because I mean, we move so fast in 5 years. But it's, do you understand the value of that data in informing how you go forward with your service? Or are you just collecting it? Or are you just inputting the data and not even looking at what it's telling you at the other end? I don't think you can be well led if you're not doing that type of analysis. And that's looking at the data. What is it telling you? What are those falls telling you? That falls data. What are the meds errors telling you? And then you could then extrapolate solutions from that. It might be that has been the thing that has triggered a strategy to go out to the local university, or go out to other professionals, or go out to the RNIB or somewhere else and say, we have high rates of X. Can you please give us some advice on how to support our clients or reduce this issue? And then the relationship and the improvement spiral from there. So it's finding out what kind of data that you're looking at and how it's going to support you. So that's all the slides that I've got. I am going to stop sharing in a minute, and I'm hoping that we can have a bit of a discussion about, what we think about it and what people have learned. Can you just put in the chat whether you're happy for me to carry on streaming at this stage, or you prefer if I stop streaming? I don't mind either way. Yes, the slides are going to be shared after, but will be in our members area. So I'm going to upload them to our members area. So if you go onto our website, so co-producecare.com, and in the top right hand corner, you'll see a members area. If you just tap on that, subscribe, it's just your email and whatever password you want, and then you can get into the documents, which I'm going to upload the slides after this, and anything else. Yeah, so someone's said referring to Chloe's. So at the moment, they're still using Chloe's. So at all of these reports that I've looked at, as they were presented under the Chloe's as we know them. So this is just reflecting back on the reports that were published on the website from September up to December. So just to explain that, just looking in the chat. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. Okay. So did anybody want to ask a question or comment, just a general discussion to say, do you know what, I'm doing all of that and I'm still not outstanding? Oh.
Hello.
Hello. Hi, Colin.
Hi, Sophie. I'm just trying to fix my sound. You can hear me.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I heard you perfectly. I can hear you again now. Right. I don't know what happened there. That was amazing. That was a brilliant summary of things. Yes, we're doing loads of stuff. What that's made me currently think is because, right, I'm back. Because we haven't been inspected for a long time, but we have had two sort of, reviews where we've just been asked for, like the old provider information returns, we've asked for tons of information. And we've just been asked for a bunch of information under the going forward system of things and a little bit of introduction from there. So I was glad we had some preparation for that. But what it's made me mainly think is, we've taken a long time, a lot of years to try and get to the point of hitting some outstanding stuff. And that's just given me real confidence that actually the messages we've got back from the couple of reviews, because we've consistently got good, we've had 5 or 6 goods over 10, 12 years. Great, yeah. And it's sort of all about trying to move it on from there. And that's just made me think that if we now get a kind of light touch feel return now that says, yeah, that's all fine, that's really good. I've never had quite the confidence to go back and, well, I've never felt like we've been in a position realistically to go back and say, actually, could you come and look at us in a bit more depth so we can actually know a bit more about how close to outstanding we are out of the good and the report you're writing? Because it does seem from our inspector, and we've got great relations with our inspector, I don't want to disparage that in any way or her, but yeah, it's a little bit of, yeah, you're fine, we'll move on, we'll look at someone else now. We're only really, yeah, it's that feel, we're only really interested where things are going kind of badly wrong. And it just feels sometimes like it leaves us sort of more aspiring from good to outstanding in a little bit of a black hole.
Yeah, I think
So
that's
thank you.
No, oh, well, thank you for, give me feedback. It was really, really good to hear. But I think that's really interesting, your comment, because I don't know if you were there when I put up the slide where you had that home that seemed to have an outstanding in like 2018 and then had just inspected on another element. It was just that element that 2023 and it was outstanding, which made them outstanding overall, which made me think, did that provider go to CQC and say, we think we are now outstanding in well led? Can you just come back? Like, how hard was the ask or what was the discussion? What was the motivation to go back and re-inspect, but specifically focus on well led? I mean, it might be that the report was submitted like wrong onto the website, and then they had actually done a bit more of an inspection. It was, but the way it looked, it was really interesting. I think that there is a lot of space for providers to go back and say, I know I'm doing a really good job. I actually have evidence from everybody, and this is great. I need you to come out. Whether you'll get that or not, I don't know. I know that CQC, the inspectors, did they go on strike last year? So I'm presuming that they don't have too many, or there's issues there with staffing, so that's why we don't get as many inspections. But I think definitely go out and just ask, like you say, brilliant idea.
Yeah, I guess as well that it's made me think some of the things you hit there where I thought, I didn't evidence that. I didn't really get the opportunity to evidence that. We do that. We do audit. We do link it to, some of it is like, yeah, we very clearly did. You said we did stuff, but other sort of real detail on the auditing and where the improvements come from and how you evidence that. We've got sort of certain internal formats that in a email exchange and demand for information, there is a real barrier to kind of communicate. What do I do? Do I open the inspector up to all those Trello boards? Do I log her onto our care system? How far are we going here to evidence what we're kind of being asked for? But no, really good. Really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed like having time again to focus on that, on how to link, what we are doing with what we're then asked for, how to bring that together. Yeah, really good. Thank you.
That's
again.
It, no worries.
Just sound like I'm just crawling.
Yeah, no, it's really helpful
really
to know. It's good to know what works and what doesn't work. I'm just looking at the messages as well. Got a template support plans that covers the various areas in which individuals may require support. Please advise if the CQC would require us to complete all support areas and state, or rather omit support plans where the individual does not require support. I'm not sure I can give specific feedback on that to the person who did submit that question. If you want to, though, unmute and talk about that and have a little discussion, do that. But it's very difficult because I feel like every CQC inspector wants slightly different things depending on how they know your service. And actually, it'd be really interesting to find out from people whether you give inspectors regular feedback on what you're doing. So that's one thing I think might be really useful. But I don't know whether people have done that and it hasn't really impacted the ratings or anything like that, or they do have regular contact with, even just sending them your newsletter, or like Colin was saying, if you have vignettes of you've got examples of that golden thread, you've had a year of making improvements, of evidence of those improvements making an impact, and feedback from people, and that's informed your company strategy. Would you have have you had that experience? Is that the kind of thing that we should be getting ready in a folder to present? Because it's very difficult to remember all these things when you've got PIR that comes up, and then I know they're changing the system now, but when you've got an inspection, you've got to really focus on everything that you've done. If you just collect those in good impact stories in that way, then it's ready for when you need to upload it to this online system that's coming. Yeah, and someone's just asking if anyone else has got some ideas on robust quality audits. So what do people audit and how they test competency of auditors? That's a really, really good question. I mean, in terms of like quality audits, I suppose it would be, yes, the managers or the providers. I mean, who would test your competency in doing the audits? I don't know, but you could potentially get external auditors. I know organizations who have audited services that I'm involved with, and that's really helpful. They do like a CQC check on your audits. But I feel like with the audits, because of the information that we collect is so different, and each and every provider will be using a different system, whether it's Mobizio or VCare or EMARS, and they all give you the information in slightly different ways. But ultimately, it's checking the checkers. So you might have audits within the service, but then who's auditing those audits? And one of the things that I found, is easy to come into the trap of, well, I know that somebody is checking that daily notes are being carried out, but who are you just asking somebody to say that they've done the daily notes check, or are you actually making sure that people have gone into those notes and checked them and checked the quality of them, and then if it's not right, done something about it? So it's a whole webinar in itself, and to get some professionals on to talk about that. Maybe that's the next webinar we do in April.